We are live. We are live.
Hello, YouTube.
13 minutes after the hour. Retrocomputing on the 13s. Okay. Well, that's quite a clacky keyboard.
Oh, that's my quiet keyboard.
Excellent. Okay, let's see. So we were stalling a little bit, waiting to see if Carrington would show up. He's having he's around having tech trouble. He has a new computer and a new mic, and what that means is it's about as good as a no computer and no mic. So, yeah. Anyway, he will. We expect him to arrive at some point. But okay, I guess we can. I don't know what I should do with it.
Is everybody recording?
Not. That's a good idea.
Yeah, let me record.
I am recording.
Actually, I'm not.
Yeah.
Now that since you spent all that time updating the program, you might as well use it.
Yeah. Theoretically, I'm recording.
Excellent.
Hold on.
Michael, Curtis in the chat says, "Good afternoon."
Well, it might be a good afternoon later on for me.
Right.
For some reason, I'm having to reset my audio formats. I guess I'd been handing you compressed Apple lossless mono. Is that still fine?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
ALAC.
I turn everybody's.
mono.
Yeah. I turn everybody's tracks to mono anyway, and then distribute them a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you're very, if you have very fine
I've
hearing,
noticed
you can
that.
tell
I've
that we're
noticed
sitting in different
something.
spots.
Uh-huh. Nice.
At about 45 seconds into mine, Paul, I gave you a few seconds of unmuted
Ah, okay.
because I know you like to do the noise reduction. Paul does a great job, everybody, at the audio
He
mix
does.
down. Just want to say that.
Thanks. Yeah. I was working on the the previous one, the one that is not yet on the feed, and my microphone has some kind of buzz. I'm hoping it's not coming through right now, but somehow
I'm not
I've
hearing
managed to.
anything.
Okay, good.
I'm not
Yeah,
doing anything.
Could it be because your mic's upside down?
it could be. Yes. Yeah. No, I think it's actually it's a USB, it's connection, and I think USB cables are actually even more susceptible to like interference from local, power and stuff like that. So I may have to just wiggle wires around. But okay.
You mean when you have all your cables running together like this?
Yeah. Right.
Uh-huh.
Coil them up right next to your power.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, I guess what I'll do is I'll just start, and we can go around, and maybe I can, bring Carrington in when he arrives.
Sure.
Alrighty. I am recording.
Oops. 16th. All right. It's January 16th, 2022, and welcome to episode 249 of the Retrocomputing Roundtable. The RCR is a podcast about retro computer news, nostalgia, collecting, and various things 2022. So, I'm Paul in Boston. I'm joined today by many retro computing. Happy
easy for you to
2022. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm joined today by many retro computing enthusiasts. Around my screen, I have Michael Mulhern in Sydney. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. If people understand the next comment, it's just like Missouri at Kansas Fest here at the moment.
Yikes.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much the opposite where I am. I mean, like,
You mean your
well
humidity's
below.
your humidity's a little bit more solid and the temperatures are considerably lower.
yes. Yeah. Here it was, I don't even know. It was below zero, though. Yeah, 0 F, that is. But, okay, also joining us is Earl Evans from Portland. How are you?
Doing well. Happy New Year, everybody. And since we're talking about weather, I'm in day 3 of a 4-day weekend currently. And the weather here has been really nice. It's been sunny, on and off, and high 40s, which is just fine for us. It's not 0 Fs. We have between 48 and 50 Fs at the moment.
How does this go? F for respect or whatever?
So I've enjoyed getting out, walking around and that. But today I'm ready to retro.
Excellent, excellent. Also joining us is Blake Patterson from Northern Virginia. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing well. It is actually right now about 25, although it feels like 11, apparently, with the wind chill, apparently. So,
Cool.
yeah, it's we had a heavy snow about, beginning of last week, and we just about 2 hours ago, I can see out the glass window door that the snow is heavily falling, so we're in for an evening of snow yet again.
Well, maybe you should turn on a few more retro computers to keep you warm.
Yeah.
I should actually miss I used to I would actually turn on the 21-inch Next Color CRT, which is the cooling fan. It was so hot that it had an inbuilt cooling fan that would bring the room up about 10 degrees in about 10 minutes. And but I gave that to a friend. So sadly, it is a bit chilly in here. But otherwise, doing well. Doing well. Happy New Year, everyone.
Excellent. And to you. And also joining us eventually is Carrington Vanston in Toronto. I can report that the Google says it is -3 degrees Celsius. So
That's what I need right now.
yeah. All right. So we will assume that he is fantastic, and we can move on to our topic, which I guess is basically, since this is the first episode of 2022, we are going to talk about what we plan to do for 2022, and perhaps we could even discuss our New Year's resolutions. That's everyone's cue.
Well, I'm taking the happy part of Happy New Year on advisement because, as far as I'm concerned, we celebrated New Year's Eve, 31st of December, 2019, and we'll see if 22 is any better than 20 and 21. But yeah. So yeah. Apart from that, New Year's resolutions is to try and keep up my ratio of at least one scan uploaded to the Internet Archive per day. Currently working almost through my stockpile of Australian personal computer magazines. I've just started the last 12-month pile, which is the year 2000. I haven't been doing them in any particular order apart from grabbing them out of the box. So if anyone's after a retro subscription, check out, I'll put a link in the show notes, but check out my scans for Australian Personal Computer. Read one a month. Be just like it was 2000 or 2001 or whatever. Find out what's going on in Australia.
Except for the temporal jumps. if they're actually just sorted in order of depth.
Yeah. Yeah. At least yeah, that way. Yeah. It was always difficult reading computer magazines in Australia because of the lead time for producing a magazine, and then also just the usual lag of being on the top of the world while all you guys are on the bottom of the world.
That's right. It takes a long time to climb up there for the delivery people.
That's right. Mm.
Excellent. Earl, any plans, forecasts for 2022?
Well, I know you beat me to the punch on this, but I have to say that my New Year's resolution is 640 by 480, as it always is.
That's right.
I love VGA. So what am I going to do in 2022? Or as someone recently put, 2020 also.
Yes.
Nice.
I think I have 3 goals. If I can get these done, I'm going to be super happy. One is that I'm finally this year stake in the ground you guys can hold me to it. I'm going to right size my computing collection so that I have the things I
Oh,
want.
it's getting bigger.
No, right size is less size at the moment.
Oh.
Just like me.
Hmm.
I need
I
to
have
shrink a little. My collection needs to shrink a little. And
I have SADs.
so it shall. And what will be left will be the stuff that I really want to mess with, which brings me to goal number 2. I have a couple of computers that I want to restore this year. And I just need to take the time and spend the money, do the things that I need to get them back in full working operation, which I'm looking forward to. And it's going to take a little bit of component level repair and a little bit of diagnosis. I might even get to use that fancy oscilloscope that I bought and haven't really used a lot yet. And goal number 3 is kind of a shared goal. Randy Kindig and I talked about getting a Next Without 4 episode out every other month. So we're going to do our best. We've got a schedule on the books. We've got some topics that are fun, but at the same time, shouldn't be too challenging. Shouldn't take months to put together an episode. So you might be hearing some more of those if we can hang on to that goal.
Oh, retro, yay.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, no, that I really like that podcast. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. You're one of the 6 then. Excellent.
The few, the proud.
I'd offer to give you information on EasyTrieve, but unfortunately I've forgotten most of it.
EasyTrieve.
Yeah, it's just a mainframe language that I used to use way back in the day. The only command I actually remember with any clarity is flunk. You can flunk records out of your collection. So it's a good way of collating.
You know what language I haven't used forever, mainframe language that I really loved was Rex, R-E-X-X.
Yes, I used to do quite a lot of Rex and also C-list for those that needed it.
Also, strangely, a language for the Amiga, for whatever reason. Yeah,
AREX. I think Quinn might have mentioned that. Yeah, it was. I think they had their version of. It was like HyperCard called Amiga Vision, which was a pretty nice take on that very specific sort of thing, and you could script kind of devices, laser disc players, everything, but it was using the IBM, AREX adaptation, which I never really played with on the Amiga, but it was empowering to recall. Rex.
Yes.
Also the name of a Franklin PCMCIA form factor organizer from the late 90s. If anyone remembers the Franklin Rex.
Are all of these things with a double X at the end?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it is, yeah.
Okay, because
Amiga and IBM are.
The TRS-80, Model 100 has a Rex plugin, but I think that has only one X. That
that's
gives
one
it
X. Yes.
extra ROM.
And I love that plugin. Did we talk about this? I think there's a new version actually of that device that's out now. We had to cover that in one of our upcoming shows.
Yeah, that and FujiNet. But
yeah, we haven't talked about FujiNet in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's right. Actually, it's been I think it did successfully boot on SmartPort or something like that. It made some sort of like advancement in the Apple II domain.
Oh, nice.
Sometime between like the last time we recorded and now. So anyway, Blake, what are your 2022 thoughts?
Well, my resolution this year, I think, is 80 by 48. I figured I'd go with the elusive Apple double low res.
Double low res, yeah.
In 16 colors, yes. But I think as far as resolutions and things to do that have anything to do with retro computing, I think I've been much weaker than I think a number of you here with us on the show right now regarding archiving. I think I could do. I've got a number of things that I could, probably take the time and effort to archive and submit, in the way of, catalogs, manuals, and a few. I don't think I have a great deal of software that is unique, but I have some. I think that is probably not archived. I have. I remember in particular that I think I purchased a. I don't know if I'm sure somebody here remembers the older company Inmac, INMAC. They had their own branded version of everything: floppy disks, paper, disc platters. I think they would sell actual Winchester platters. I mean, they had everything. I used to get those catalogs, and I haven't found one anywhere online. And so I bought one on eBay, and I think that's going to be my start, is to scan that. I bought so many cables, ladles, discs, paper from those folks, and it's amazing to me that at least as of like 4 months ago, there wasn't anything anywhere online with those folks. So we'll see. I need to, I think, figure out how to cleanly scan some of these things. I'll have to ask some of you folks, and I Jason, I pointed out to Jason Scott, with the Internet Archive, I can scan this. It's not going to be, it's not going to be super square, and it's not going to be that clean. He was like, well, get set up so that you can make it clean. So, yeah. So rather than
Scan Taylor.
What's that?
Scan Taylor will do that for you, because I try to speed up my scanning, so I just call it slap and scan. So the page goes down as long as the page is on the plate of the scanner. I take the scan, and then I just use.
Sounds like it must equalize the size, scales it, rotates it.
Yeah, it's got all page sizes, margins, and things. So I can actually, when downstairs here, I've only got an A4 scanner. But if I've got a book that is larger than an A4 leaf, as long as the text itself fits on the A4, or a book opened up, done scan in book mode, fits on the A4, I scan that, and then I reconstitute the page size and the margins. And
nice.
So
okay.
yeah, it'll auto rotate fairly well, deskew. It does quite good black and white from grayscale images. So it's quite a good open source package.
Yeah,
excellent.
Get the Scan Taylor Advanced is the best one.
Okay,
there's various flavors.
That, yeah.
I've been using that. That's what I've been using a fair amount. Also, I was thinking actually maybe at some point I'll just, I've been running through this process enough. It might actually make sense to turn on a screen recorder and just say like, this is what I'm doing. It's not necessarily what you want to do, but it's working for me. That's kind of useful to be able to see.
It. Yeah, it seems like
Go
ahead, Michael.
Yeah, the only thing I'm envious of you guys is that I've got pathetic internet connection, so it's difficult for me to, when I'm doing color work, uploading the CBZ file, so that that's there. So for the bigger stuff, I have to convert it into a PDF down on the desktop and upload the PDF. Especially at these APC magazines I've been doing, that even at just 400 DPI, they're coming out at between 30 and 40 meg per page. And and being a typical computer magazine of the era, when you've got 300 plus pages, that's a lot of 30. That's a lot of 30 to 40 megabytes.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I'll look into it. It seems lazy, perhaps, to keep thinking about. It would be nice to get these things archived, and at least I can get some of them. So I will do that.
If there's something that you want to see, what can Scan Taylor do? Just flick me a link to your cloud storage for those files, and I'll just run it through and send it back to you.
Super. Okay. sounds like it'll be productive in that regard anyway. As far as 2022 goes, we don't know what else it will hold, but maybe some archiving. Yeah. I'm sure it won't be boring.
Right. Anyway. And probably there's no chance that it won't be an improvement over the preceding year.
Yes, I think that has to be the case.
You just jinxed it. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
I've done.
You could have waited till we at least got to February.
I've done so much knocking on wood that my knuckles are bleeding. It's like it's like the knock. So I think you're right, but knock on wood.
Yeah.
I'd put a New Year's resolution of tidying up the 8-bit bunker, but I kind of like it like this. And this is the tidy end.
Right, we've seen your cables.
It looks like a place I'd like to visit. Here on the YouTube stream, it looks like a place I would not mind visiting.
Well, that's the problem. It's a very large room, but I think I could only really fit in 2 or 3 guests at a time. It's basically
a lower priority.
Yeah, it's a repository of all my interests. I think most people can sort of like figure out what I've got down here. So
I'll have to screenshot your feed and zoom deeply in and get to
Enhance.
To work. Enhance. Yeah. Enhance.
Yeah, I've been I foresee basically my 2022 kind of going. It's sort of continuing what I'm doing now, which is kind of going through and scanning and uploading and things like that. And I'm doing it in such a large operation that I don't know. There's multiple steps to this because, like, if you have a box of software, you have to scan the box and you have to scan the stuff inside. You have to image the floppy. And I think I talked about this last time. I'm also taking photographs as if I was putting on everything on eBay, but largely in some of these things I am, but I also want to preserve some aspect of the kind of like physical appearance of this thing because scans do tend to kind of like flatten
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, actually, I have a ton of these discs that have foil labels, and those scan terribly. I mean, like it's just like as if it's just black. So photographing those, at least you can read what it says on it.
Yeah. Doing the boxes is a pain, sort of like flipping it onto its edges. So you've got your front of box, back of box, and then you've got your 4 edges, and then you look inside the box lid and you see some of the stuff's wrapped around. So I'll take a photo of that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I went through all of those same thoughts. I now tend to take a photo of them open on the floor in 2 different orientations so that I can sort of see. If you want to, if sometime it becomes important for a court case or something to know like what the depth of the little wraparound was on the box for Avalon Hills, whatever. This will be determinable. And sometimes there's a little like inspected by 2372 stamp on the inside and stuff. It's pretty cool. But anyway, yeah. So I've got a lot of sort of stages. So there's stuff that I've done the box, stuff that I've done all the stuff inside, stuff that I still need to photograph, stuff that I have put on the Internet Archive, stuff that like has already been promised to somebody, so I think my resolution is going to be to tame the chaos a little bit of all those stages. See if I can figure out some way to not have each pile be so big.
Yeah, there's one New Year's resolution which really I should take up, but I've dared not do, and that's to say no.
Yeah, well, that's 2023.
2023, 2024.
All right.
I want to get ahead of ourselves.
I think we've covered everyone's. Carrington is still not here, so we'll get to his resolutions a little later, I suppose. Anything else anyone wanted to say about the topic before we move on into our items of interest?
No, apart from the fact that anyone in Australia, if you've got stuff that you think should be scanned and you don't have the means to do it, get in contact with me. I have got things in from people around Australia and also from New Zealand, purely to scan it and in the right format and then upload it to the Internet Archive, and then I send it back if you want it back. So got a couple of Dick Smith catalogs for the New Zealand flavor of Dick Smith's electronic stores, and scanned those and uploaded it. And just recently, actually, this might be useful for Earl, an algol primer for the Burroughs B6700.
Yeah, I've been looking for that.
I forgot that Earl is an old algal buff. I had not remembered that detail.
So I scanned that, and that was just something I came across, and noticed that it was actually done at the University of Otago in New Zealand. So I flicked a copy of that across to the New Zealand retro computer enthusiasts.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Nice.
All right. So we have had some listener feedback, and maybe I'll talk a bit about that as well. So James wrote over email, and one thing he said, I think I forget now, it might have been Jack who was talking about this, but was noting that Google Sheets does have a version history. So if someone selects all and deletes, it is recoverable. It is in under the file menu in version history.
So, of course, file.
Yeah. But anyway, what he actually wrote about, though, was that he's been working on building a 2E compatible computer using the Mega 2 chip from an Apple IIgs, and he's got a video. Well, this is basically this is work in conjunction with Element 14. I think he was with Element 14. And so he's been live streaming the process on this on Twitch, and so if you wanted to sort of like follow along, you can sort of see. But this the first video that I'll link to is him kind of describing what the project is, and my guess is that many people who are listening to this don't know what the project is. But the Apple IIgs had it was basically supposed to be Apple II compatible, right? But it was also using a different chip, a 16-bit chip. And so inside the Apple IIgs, there is a chip called the Mega 2. And so what James describes here is basically the he believes that it is something of an urban legend in the retrocomputing world that this chip provides all the Apple II compatibility, but in fact, actually, mostly in the 2GS, it's running the I/O stuff. So there's a lot of Apple II stuff that's not handled by that chip. And so what his idea is basically not even the 2GS. Like, no computer has been built. The Apple II compatible computer has been built with this as its brain. Like there hasn't been a computer with a Mega 2, sort of like all the support stuff around the Mega 2 being the computer. And so that's what he wanted to just see if that would work. If he could use this chip to build an Apple II essentially. And so he's sort of going through and he's taken the chip off of the 2GS motherboard, and he's got this little rat's nest of wires plugged in all over the place to try to get it to boot.
Yeah, it's almost as messy as my desk.
Yeah, and he, this is a 20-minute video. 17 minutes in, we get to a point where it's actually managed to show the video properly. It immediately crashes into the monitor, but it's very close to booting. And it's really quite interesting, actually. It's not a project that would even have occurred to me, but it's an interesting idea. It's more interesting than it originally sounded, I think. So if you're interested in any of this, check out that 20-minute video first, and then sort of read through the process, and you can watch the live streams that have occurred or will occur on Twitch as well.
It's interesting. I came across this about not quite a week ago, and I found it fascinating. I don't know that I've watched much more than this video, but I didn't realize that and he seems to be makes a good case for the fact that it indeed was not really wired in fully as far as what's being utilized. I was assuming that it was it's there, it must be doing all of the things that it can do. It would be interesting to see if with just memory, the Mega 2 and some ROMs and a CPU, he's able to have an Apple II. I wonder, am I recalling that the 2C Plus also uses the Mega 2? Do you know offhand?
I do not know.
I think there's a chance that it might. That was the only new, I guess, heavily modified Apple II after the GS. But anyway, it very interesting.
There's another one, I forgot what he called it, but there's another chip that's different from the Mega 2 that's used on the 2E cards you put in a Mac. So, but he's actually on the screen. We're seeing paddles at this point in the video. He's kind of like talking through all the challenges of, like getting it to talk to the RAM and the paddles and the disk drive and slots and so. Anyway, so that was really interesting. I'm glad he wrote to tell us about it, and you should check it out. Okay, the next bit of feedback was Tony wrote to just say that he really misses the covers of Byte. Do you guys remember the covers of Byte magazine?
Yes.
Very nice artwork.
Yeah, they were something.
Generally,
and often fairly funny.
Yeah,
but
I'd say generally, because I remember sometimes they were hand sketches that were quite stunningly impressive, but then there were the issues where there were photographs like your. I remember the issue in particular that I think I sought out on eBay was the introduction to the Amiga 1000, and that was more of a photograph. But yeah, the hand drawn. I don't know if it the same. I'm not sure if it's the same artist or maybe that's part of what you're about to tell us.
Oh no, it isn't. I don't know any more than that. Although I think.
At a minimum, it's a recognizable style, whether it was the same artist or not.
There must be at least a section of them that were the same because they're so similar. Like But
anyway,
I miss them too.
Yeah. So what Tony basically just wrote to say that and said it would be great to have a coffee table book. Somebody go do that. I mean, he didn't actually say somebody to go do that, but that was effectively what he was saying.
Nice.
Yeah, it was implied to make it so.
Yeah. So there we go.
I would certainly buy one of those.
Yeah,
it would be
sure
allowed on our coffee table. I'm sure I can tell you, but I would put it down here on my computer desk.
Right.
It's funny to contemplate. Here we go for our coffee table. The family, you see.
Randy wrote over email to just sort of mentioned the irony of having all this time during various lockdowns that led him to take out an old SE30 and sort of carefully bring it back up to working status. Sort of inspired in a way by like listening to us talk about these things, but the fact that he had kind of had time to do that was sort of coincided with the inability to like the lack of a need to commute, and so the inability to listen to us. so he was just catching up on old RCR episodes and was kind of noting that it was interesting to sort of listen back to the retro episodes of our podcast when we were like 2 years ago, just sort of speculating on how long this is going to last. So yeah. Anyway. Okay, let's see. Tony wrote a different email. Tony had suggested making a Byte coffee table book, and then he wrote to point out the Acorn World of Pixels, or A World in Pixels coffee table book that already exists. This is the extended edition, and it's sort of
hint.
Yeah. BBC Micro Acorn Focus. This is, I think, it's the extended edition. So there was an earlier edition, and if you bought the earlier edition, you can kind of look at the details of what's different. But it looks nice. It does look nice. It's not, it's not my experience, but it is it's very good looking. It's very thick. It has nice pictures of Elite. So.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, for those of you out there who did grow up with Acorn, you might be interested in this if you already had the first edition or not. Okay. One last thing, and then I will move on. This is Colin on the Facebook group pointed out the part 2 of the HP 9845. I guess it's sort of exploration discussion. And so this is it's a series called Bejo Vision, and I think it in fact is Colin's own video. And so he sort of walks through the HP 9845 is a sort of like a workstation type thing, and had an integrated monitor on the top, and it's. So if this is Colin speaking in there, the person who's speaking in there says that it is his favorite workstation. And
look at that gorgeous machine.
Yeah, it really is nice. It has it has this HP calculator type, or not calculator, but you know what I mean, like those number crunching machines that came before the computers that had this kind of shape to them.
But it's a rounded sort of design. Mm-hmm. If you've seen other HP machines like the HP 85, then the keyboard style of this you'll find reminiscent. Mm-hmm. It's big, kind of an all-in-one, and the screen unfortunately looked like it had suffered from some of that CRT damage that can happen when the outer protective layer glue starts to disintegrate in between that and the glass.
Yeah, but it's still, you can still see through it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks much better when it's on than when it's not on. But this is really interesting. It's really well filmed, and goes into a lot of detail about like how the air circulation worked, and how like he's got nice pictures of all the cards and stuff inside, and so if you're interested in this, there's this the Bejo Vision channel has quite a few videos of this sort. So there's a number that are on the HP 9845. It looks like a lot of these are on HP products, but I don't think that is. Yes, there's an NEC one and an IBM PC 110 one. So lots of interesting stuff. I'm kind of looking forward to looking through all of the stuff on this channel eventually. So anyway, thank you, Colin, on the Facebook group for notifying us of this.
He's shaming me with the PIDE P11 kit build. I've still got mine in its shipping box.
Nice. Yeah. I have something. I don't know if now I can't quite remember if it was the PIDE P11 or 8. I think mine might be the 8. But anyway, yeah, I also have one to build. Who knows when? Next pandemic.
I just haven't had time to do it in this pandemic.
By the way, end of the line, Joel, in the comments was talking about the Acorn No World in Pixels book, and said it's an excellent book, well worth a purchase for the extra interviews. So I guess I hadn't mentioned that, but there are interviews in this Acorn No World in Pixels book, and not only that, but the extended edition or the enhanced edition, the next one, has more interviews added. So okay. There's so much feedback. That's great. It's great. But okay, one more. I had missed one. So this is one I didn't mention last time, but Alex wrote over email, and what he is doing is actually, now that I say that out loud, I don't know that for sure. So let me say that again. So what Alex is doing is he's going through stuff on the Internet Archive that has URLs in it, so it's like web addresses and stuff, like magazines and books and so forth, and then sort of feeding those back into the Wayback Machine to try to see if there are like records of these URLs that were published in books, as a way kind of to locate old software, like that you might not find from just like searching in the search bar. And so he's got, let's see. So there's a page at buriedbits.org that kind of discusses this idea of kind of like going through the Internet Archive, led by things you find on the Internet Archive. And so far, I don't think there's actually a whole lot that has been scraped. But it's an interesting idea, and it's kind of a work in progress at the beginning. So there's I think, yeah, I thought this was, yeah. So like one example was having found some files from the Apple Technical Reference CD that was linked at one point, that the Wayback Machine captured, but wasn't easy to find except through this kind of convoluted method. So a lot of this is automated, and I think the interesting thing is going to be to see like what comes out of it, like what new things we find this way. But anyway, so all right, that's it for the feedback. I'll stop there. And we can go to the items of interest in news. And Blake has the first of these.
Okay.
Were you getting out of something to show?
Oh, I was grabbing something for the viewers at home, and to mention in conjunction with the quick piece, or I guess little commentary on this blog post. So there.
Where'd Michael go?
Oh, did we lose Michael?
We did. Okay, we'll assume Michael will come back.
Okay.
I hope I didn't do that.
All right. Well, I can tell him offline about what I'm about to cover.
Okay.
Anyway, yes, there's a blog called Break Into Chat that I enjoy reading. It's Josh Renaud. Josh Renaud. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, I'm sure. Retrocomputing reminiscences, that sort of thing. And he has written a post recently about appreciating the physicality of floppies. And what he's talking about here is, this is something that I have come across, and just grabbed a few examples out of the box of discs here to my left. But he has an example of, there's a game, on App 2 game that is called Noshkosh. I'm actually not familiar with the game. But it's on a floppy, and there's a big, Sharpie label with the game title written in a box, but it's written on a pre-existing label to I guess a commercial package called Jerusalem Square's Question Bank Editor. This is something that I think whoever put Noshkosh on may not have, this may not have been their cup of tea, or they were focused in a sort of a different direction for their Apple II's use. But Josh goes on to talk about, well, this is something that it's not any longer available. You can't buy or acquire this product from what might have been its original source. And he did a search online for Jerusalem Squares from Gesher Educational Affiliates, which is more information he found on the under label. You can read through the Sharpie print, and he can find no indication of that software existing in an archive form anywhere. So it's interesting. Like I have a couple of examples. I think I ended up buying a lot of like 50 TI 99 for a floppy disks to I was lacking, there's a lot of interesting software, little, basically basic programs, that kind of thing, that exist. And I didn't, at that point, I had no networked way to really get more programs onto the TI I do now. But so I ended up with these. And
sorry, Blake. Okay, so you ended up with these. I was attempting to
no problem. I'm glad we
zoom in on you, but okay.
No problem. So basically, I mean, I just I have a few examples of these. I'm holding in my hand it's a combination of Othello, Munchman, Chisholm Trail, and Parsec on a 5 1/4 inch floppy that I see. Underneath the label is Portfolio Manager from so-and-so labs in California. And on top of that, is an address label: Linwood, Ashby, Beverly. There's several different layers of labeling happening. So just different examples of that. Another example is some sort of application that's the title is a code, but it's from Prime Computers. Prime, had an interesting little mini computer operation. We used a Prime as a first computer science teaching system in my first year of college. I get what the blog post is saying. It's interesting. You see these things, you're not going to be able to recover. I guess there may be the possibilities of faint, partial data level. I don't know that what the technology is with floppy archiving devices as far as, them being able to pick up different layers of flux over the years that have been overwritten. But at any rate, seeing the label, it's interesting because, you're reminded of the fact that here's something that may just be gone. And that's one of the things, seeing these things, even if you're not, thinking about or trying to move forward in some kind of archive or research about it. It's just, that's one of the little nuances when you're dealing with these decades old floppies that you lose in using, floppy emulators. I'm adding floppy emulators to more and more systems, which is a practical thing, and it enables quick use of lots of new stuff, but it's also, you're missing out. We all have talked about how the physical aspect of putting a disk in a drive is a nice part of the whole process, but also here's another aspect of it. Just kind of what was here before. What did you see, user of Jerusalem Square's question bank editor? What did you see? It got me thinking, and so I thought it was a clever little thing that I never really hit me in that particular way before when I would see these things. So I thought that was worth a share.
Cool. Yeah, there was something. Let me stick this up here. There's a blog post that I wrote a long time ago, 2017, I guess. That this reminded me of a little bit. It's the title of it is An Early Story of Apple II Software Marketing as Told by a Disk Label, which is basically, I just tweeted this photo with that as its caption. But what it is it's a 5 1/4 floppy disk with the a label. The label is California Pacific Computers presents Serious Software's Star Cruiser. But you can sort of see if you look at it that it basically that's a California Pacific Computers label just stuck on top of an old Serious Software label underneath it, because in fact, actually, these were I think in the post I talked a little bit more about how these relate. Let's see. So California Pacific Computers got non-exclusive distribution rights to Serious titles, including these. And so the way they distributed it was they got the disc and stuck their label on it, which is pretty cool.
Right.
But anyway, I just thought it was kind of, that's the kind of thing you do only really get from looking at the photo or holding the disc. You don't get from the disc image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sorry.
it's little history, traces of history.
All right. Earl, I guess you have the next thing.
Well, the Commodore 64 is 40 years old this month.
Hooray.
So I won't ask us to sing happy birthday, although, that would be appropriate, but I'll spare our audience that inconvenience. But I will say, though, that as you probably have heard, the Commodore 64 sold more individual units than any other specific computer model. But the question has always been out there, how many units did it sell? And the estimates have varied quite a bit and been very controversial. Some people might say as low as 12 million, and others say up in the high teens millions, or maybe even in the 20 million range. And so, open question. The Commodore International Historical Society is a Twitter account that I follow, and they get a lot of interesting information based on original sources. Like, I don't know, for instance, Commodore phone lists or org charts or marketing materials, or, things that people have just kept and have from back in the day. And so they send it, and these get scanned and upped, and you can look at them. They're very, very interesting. One of this collection of things was the Commodore annual reports. These came out every year, with all public companies. And so you can look back on them and potentially gather the information that you need to determine how many Commodore 64s were made and sold. And I will give a spoiler here. The answer seems to be about 12.5 million, but really it's not the end of the tale. It's the journey that you want to go through. So there will be a link to this video in the show notes where the Commodore History Channel on YouTube goes through these different annual shareholder reports, collects up the metrics, sometimes has to infer the metrics based on doing some mathematics from one year to the next, but ultimately figures out that it was about 12.5 million. So that's toward the low end of the estimates that I've heard. May still be a little bit controversial, but seems feasible. And since it's based, the best research is based on original sources, and this is straight from Commodore. So I thought it was really interesting. And I think the video is worth a watch. You can go through these different shareholder reports and see how this information was put together.
Very cool. Yeah, I've definitely heard the claim over and over again. So.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, Commodore 64.
Yeah, I'll have to send them my happy birthday meme. But yeah, it's these internal resources that are good to get up there. I've scanned a whole pile of Digitalk, which is the Digital Australia internal staff magazine from the mid to late 80s. And there's a lot of interesting information in there, which I was happy to get up there if anyone at some stage wants to do the researching on that. So, you've got sales goals, you've got functions, you've got information on people of note within the company. And I did a spot check of a few of these, and it's just it's information which is just not out there. I suppose it's because it is the mid to late 80s, we still don't really have a internet or repository or things that weren't transient. So yeah, it's great to get that physical data up into something that's a little bit more scannable, processable, and just amusing to read, because all of us have been involved in companies back in the mid to late 80s, and things were done differently then than they are now. The corporate speak is very different, and it's a great little time travel. So it's the kind of archiving I love doing, because my actual physical scanning slows down as I've got to turn the page of that book. I'm reading one issue and scanning another, and so that looks interesting.
Well, I think that information is great to scan and get recorded for posterity's sake. And I think the other thing that's really fascinating to me is now, things like shareholder documents, there were probably zillions of those printed, so it's not a surprise to me that they still exist. But some of the thing is that there's zillions of those corporate financials may have been printed, but they were not things that most people back in the day kept beyond reading or a couple of years. Then of that considerably reduced amount, it's they've now got to get into the hands of strange people like me, who will take the time to actually scan them and get them up there. So from zillions to zilch is basically how a lot of those printed materials have turned up.
It's finding that one or two that turn it from zilch to a handful. But it's I love that. I'm gonna have to go follow that up. Not being personally interested in the Commodore as a computer, but as a corporate entity, that is lovely stuff to go reading.
Yeah. All right. Next we have Michael. You have calculator news.
Yes. Happy birthday to the HP 35, released as a dangerous term here, the first scientific calculator back on the 15th of January 1972. I'm sure we will be flooded with emails, tweets, letter bombs saying that XYZ was the first scientific calculator release, but this is your archetypal early HP scientific calculator, and what a beauty it looks. Yeah, you won't find a calculator like that being made today. From the red LEDs to the blue and white buttons, I love it.
I love the key presses on the HP calculators. They were so solid.
Yeah.
And so this is 50 years old.
What this article reminded me of is that back in my computer sales day, I worked for a company, Computers and Peripherals, or as some people would say, peripherals. We had the Queensland state government contract for the supply of scientific and financial calculators into the state public service. And now I loved handling these machines. They actually interested me much more than the computers of the day, especially when you sort of like start getting to the ones that are programmable. They were beautiful devices. But happy birthday, HP 35. And I'll have to go off now and find out what happened to HP 1 through to 34.
Excellent. All right. Okay, let's see. So my thing is there's a write-up on Hackaday, which is talking about something that was written up in something called Inverse. The Hackaday article says blinking cursor turns 54. Hardly anyone notices, which I liked the title, but it's basically just talking about the introduction to the of the blinking cursor to terminals. So over on Inverse, it says it sort of talks through the history, talking about like cursors always blink now, but that wasn't always the case, and sort of looks into who has the patent for it and what it's doing. In the end, it sort of felt like it's a little bit obvious in a way. Like what it's doing is specifically just calling your attention in a screen full of text to say, like, here is where your cursor is, because it's otherwise hard to find. And talked a little bit about the Apple II making the choice to sort of have blinking rather than having lowercase. Like blinking was taken to be more important than having lowercase. And sort of talking a little bit about how that is what brought the blinking cursor to most people's attention. A little bit of discussion of possible future of the blinking cursor, and some idea that I guess is attributed to Andy Hertzfeld that actually the blinking cursor as a way of focusing your attention on where objects might be going away a little bit in favor of something a little bit more like those marching ants borders around things that you grab. But anyway, it's just an interesting thing that I hadn't really thought about much. And it came to my attention from a post on the Retrocomputing forum, which is also an interesting place to go look if you're curious about it. But one of the things that was brought up there was another way that you can find where the mouse is particularly on these like large screens. So current Mac OS has something where if you sort of shake the cursor around, it will become giant. I don't know if it's actually becoming giant on the stream, but it's becoming giant on my screen when I do that. But there were old like things you could put in the menu bar and things like that. There were like little eyes that would follow where your cursor was, and most of the time I just assumed that was just silly decoration, like having a little cat walk around or whatever. But it could actually serve a function of like actually showing you where the cursor is if you can't find it. Someone suggested that you could have two of them that could sort of help you triangulate.
Yeah, I was going to say two or three is what I used to do, because I used to have my display. I always liked using a 132 character display. Well, actually, so that I could have the same amount of text on the screen as I did on the wide form paper.
That's interesting. I used to have X-Eyes on my X Windows desktop frequently, but I never thought of using it for a practical purpose. I always thought it was a decoration, like what you were just saying, but you actually could glance at it and see where your cursor is.
Yeah, the other thing I remember is sometimes deciding, did I want a full character blinking cursor or an underscore, or did I want my underscore not blinking? So many configure buttons, key presses on the old terminals.
Yeah, I find that my mood on that varies. Sometimes I really like the solid unblinking underscore, and other times I really want the blinking.
I used to change it throughout the day. I think I remember from that by the end of the day I had full character blinking, so that I could
stay awake.
Stay awake. This is what you're up to.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, though, to find out the history of the blinking cursor, because it's just something that you don't think about. It always was like that, right? But I guess not. Just like I saw a video recently on why Control-Alt-Delete is Control-Alt-Delete, and I won't spoil it because you should go out and look at the video. But that kind of thing, these historical things, it's like, why is it like that? Well, actually, there probably is a reason. I'm excited to go look at that article on the blinking cursor. I'm not just an RCR co-host, I'm also a client.
That's right. Yeah, I have an Apple II, like a very old Apple II Plus here next to me. And one of the properties of it, it has an old style keyboard encoder. And one of the properties of that is that if you want to reset the machine, you press the reset button, which is not like what the newer ones did, where you actually had to hit control reset, because the control reset came about because people were just hitting reset much too easily. And like all your stuff was then gone.
I love the reset buttons that ended up being recessed, and then the recess wasn't enough, so they actually then put a raised box around the recess so that you actually had to get your angle of attack onto the reset key to do it. So there have been many. I'll loosely use the word solutions to the problem. But my favorite is the recessed brick wall reset button, so that you can't brush it and suddenly, whoopsie, I didn't save that.
The Apple III has one like that too.
Insert word other than whoopsie to your choice.
All right.
It's funny.
Okay, and now we come to the part of every episode that Blake is on, where we talk about the following.
That's right. If I'm not a marketing person for Big Mets of Wires or the Yellowstone product, but there is a product page now. We've been talking for some time about the Yellowstone Universal Disk Controller card for the Apple II, and it will basically, in a nutshell, it controls any Apple floppy drive that's ever been created, except for the single-sided 400K original Macintosh style drive. Anything else it'll control, whether it's in an enclosure or pulled out of a Mac SE or what have you. And so if you want to control anything, basically,
and you're one of those non-Apple IIc users.
Yes, that's
well, you have to have a slot to put it in. It's true.
It's in a slot.
Yeah. It's for the slotted user.
For the slotted user. So if you have anything, even I guess a Laser 128 could take it pretty well, I'm guessing. And
rub it in.
some of the other clones, no doubt. But anyway, the quick mention here is there is a product page proper on Big Mess Wires for this now. It's in production. It's being manufactured, so I guess you'd call it final, and it looks like March or so. Final version 1. March will be the expected shipping date, and I don't believe there's actual solid price information as yet. But
one card to run them all.
Yes, indeed. This is the one disc controller. Yes, but so there it is, and I had to, of course, mention that since I've mentioned this on every podcast I've been on. So there we go.
Yeah, and I just went to all the trouble of getting an Apple IIe Platinum and removing the drive controller card because I was going solid state. Oh well, looks like I got something to put back into slot 6 now.
Although I think one of the things that this is useful for is, in fact,
Super Drive.
Yeah, or in fact, connecting it to a floppy emu, right? I mean, like,
I think it'll emulate the Super Drive. What do they call it? The Smart Port. I'm sorry, I said Super Drive. It'll emulate the Smart Port, right?
So I've got Smart Port support on the 2C anyway, so not too bad there. But yeah, I'm seriously looking at getting one of those for my Platinum. Even if I'm not kind of really using it.
Right now, there's the thing you do is to sign up for the mailing list, and if you're on the mailing list, then they will. That'll get you the future pre-ordering information.
You may have talked about this on one of the other episodes, but one of the YouTubers I watch got a load of Apple IIs from some, I can't remember what it was, like a wholesaler or something like that, and wound up with a bunch of Lyron cards. So does this do something similar then to what one of those Lyron cards would do?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It replaces the Lyron.
Okay.
Those, except in this one small circumstance, those are hard to find. So it is. I can sympathize a little bit with this, the sort of feeling of like, something is rare, but yet you have like 9 of them. But yeah, they are rare unless you happen into a bunch of them.
I think it's because a school district had them and had used them as part of the standard equipment, and so when he wandered upon this pile of Apple IIs, he got a pile of these cards as well, and did recognize that they were rare, but not rare to him.
Yeah,
I think the only thing it controls is the Unidisc 3.5, right? Am I correct?
Yeah. Yes, except for now it controls the floppy emu. So in the Apple III, I've got a Lyron card connected to a floppy emu, and so that's the nice thing about the Yellowstone is that you don't have to find a Lyron card to use the floppy emu. So there is a kind of synergy within the Big Mess of Wires product line.
Gotcha.
Sure.
All right, let's see. I guess Carrington's microphone is still not working.
We miss you, Carrington.
Might have to catch him on the next one.
Yep. Okay, so I have the next thing, and it is really interesting. It is the virtual BBC Micro, and so what it is basically it's a 3D rendering of a BBC Micro, but it's actually really nice. I mean, so you can zoom into it, you can rotate around the I don't know if you like, I'm showing on the stream some of this, but like there's actual like patterning on the case and stuff like that. There's texture, and you can you can sort of like spin around. It really is very sort of realistic. If you type, it makes clicks, and the keys depress. So let's see.
And I see from the video you're rotating that it's a BBC Micro that's floating in the plane of Aquarius as well, right? The nether region between reality and universes.
There's magic going on because there's no cables, no power.
Yes,
but
right.
yes,
Indeed.
it turns on and displays. This is incredible.
It is, and there's a number of things that are sort of that you can sort of preload.
Marking department dream. A working computer with no cables.
But it's actually it's surprisingly engaging. Actually, to just sit there and actually just type stuff and see the keys go down and hear the clicking and stuff like that. You actually have to spell color in the British way if you want to. Yeah, but and actually the other thing that I found sort of distracting about it is that if you want to type something like a quotation mark, you have to look at the keyboard to see where that is because it's not where it is on your keyboard. It's Shift 2. So. But at any rate, it really looks very nice. So anyway, Retrocompute.
But it looked like it had a number of software titles that you could load.
Yeah.
Elite,
so there are a number of things. Elite is one of them, and actually, if you click on the keys, it tells you it knows what people are doing, and so. It gives you specific instructions on what keys to use to get Elite to go, because they know that 78% of the people who go here just load Elite. So, but anyway, but it's actually really cool how you can zoom in like to the point where you can see the little individual pixels and stuff.
The pixels,
the actual scans.
Yeah. Apparently, I think all the keys make slightly different sounds, too. So it's sort of hyper realistic in a way. Anyway, so it's fun to play with. I'm kind of looking forward to trying that out a little bit more than I have. But
have you tried to back away from the machine and head off into the horizon there, or will it let you escape from that?
Well, you can get very far away from it. That's true, and I think it's pretty easy in certain circumstances to wind up like underneath it or inside of it. But I don't. Oh, look at that! Now I'm under the keyboard.
You've encountered no deities.
I just wish it would have a sound of like a dong, a glass on glass sound as you come in too close.
Right. Dink dink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
That's
super
cool.
Yeah. There's a sort of a description on we'll have a link to this, but Dom Pajak may be the actual person who's written it. Sort of describing it, and there's a GitHub repository. Oops, that's not it. But there is a GitHub repository that has the code. The other thing I had here was it reminded me of the Zero Page project, which is a game in what do you call it, Unity, I think, that is kind of similar in a certain respect in terms of trying to emulate a full on in this case an Apple II. So there was a Kansas Fest presentation that kind of showed the current state of that, where you could you could boot and run and play Choplifter and stuff. But
I mean, the cool thing would be to have a VR headset and the gloves, which are ultimately coming, and then have a virtual computer museum that you could walk around in and play with a whole bunch of different virtual systems. I think it would be, I mean, I know that's like sci-fi talk, but wouldn't that be fun? And it would be a way to provide that environment for people who may never have these computers. I mean, let's face it, these things aren't going to last forever, but the VR could last forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just some of the museums I can actually see them instigating that, and then you'd find that the virtual computer is behind virtual glass with the virtual "Don't Touch" sign.
Yep, you approach it and it goes dink. But just think of all the space you'd save too. I mean, speaking of right sizing,
that's true.
I misspoke before. The Zero Page is Unreal Engine, not Unity. But anyway, so both of these very interesting.
Might be dangerous to keep adding layers to the simulation. I mean, how many sims down can we go before something shorts out?
Right. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder when it's going to blow a cap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder, there was in the display menu for the virtual BBC Micro, you can choose unpredictable. I don't know what unpredictable means, but I wonder if it's that. Oh, what's this? Okay, well, when I did that, now I have
Matrix mode.
a very large line of BBC Micros all running Elite.
What if you unselect and reselect unpredictable? Will some other thing happen? I wonder.
It could be. I don't know. Definitely something to play around with.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out tonight.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I was very pleased with it. I spent a little bit of time, like trying to learn how to switch graphics modes and, actually do just like a little bit of programming. In the chat, Brian mentions that there is a VR C64, so I have to check that out. And end of the line, Joel said that the background on the virtual BBC Micro actually refers to the original launch poster for the machine. So there's actually a reason for that to look like you're in this kind of like a new agey space.
What we need is the virtual Sam Coupe.
Yes. Perhaps we are all living within the virtual Sam Coupe.
It could be.
Excellent. Anyway, so with that,
Beautiful.
let's see. So Blake, I think you have one more.
I was going to let that one slide today.
Okay. All right. Okay, then.
For
So that Carrington can comment on it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right, so I guess we have made it to the point at which we go to a word from our sponsor, which is the catchy jingle. Actually, the thing is, though, I think I have there's another word from our sponsor that I think we will probably insert as well, which is the Prime Computer ads with Tom Baker and what is her name? Is Ward, somebody Ward, the companion. Anyway, okay, let's see.
Double the sponsors, double the money.
That's right.
Nothing like our finances.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was what was that? What was I forget what the product was, but there's some example that I sometimes use, which for what, it doesn't really matter for what, but it was an ad for like a cleaning product or something, and it was something like Orange Clean It's or whatever. But the ad copy was something like, nothing cleans better than Orange Clean It's, and of course, well, if nothing cleans better than this stuff, then why don't I just use nothing? Because that would be better. Anyway,
Indeed.
okay. All right, and we're back. So the retrocomputing gift idea that I have selected this time is a Beagle Floppy Warnings mug. This is sold by 8bittees.com. This is actually the store that actually also produces the Kansas Fest shirts. But there's also mugs and various other things as well. So these, for Apple II users, these are very sort of well known. But on the back of Beagle Bros floppies, there was on the back of normal floppies, there were these usually like these little warnings like, don't put these things near magnets, and don't all these various things that you're not supposed to do. Don't touch the media. And on the back of the Beagle Bros floppies, they had sort of like comic versions of these, so like, don't walk on them, don't set them on fire, don't feed them to alligators, don't put them in toasters, that sort of thing. And they're pretty great. So this is the mug version of that. You can also get it on a shirt or whatever, but it's $16. They are in stock, meaning that the whatever the print-on-demand company is functioning.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
If I did not already have too many mugs, I would get this because this is awesome.
Yeah. I have a Lisa mug that came from this store as well. It's the Picasso style Lisa drawing. Actually, if so if you are not an Apple II person or did not somehow know the Beagle Bros company, another place that had a very sort of similar thing was Penguin. Penguin Software also had a similar kind of humorous things on the back of theirs. I tend to think that there's I like the Beagle Brothers ones better, but it's the same kind of thing. Don't roast them with your marshmallows. Don't again, don't put them in the toaster or the blender or use them at the bottom of your bird cage, kind of thing.
The funny thing is, I've never tried any of those activities, so I don't honestly know what the result would be.
Right.
You heeded the warnings.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's right. And it works.
Played
So
it
they
too
must be
safe.
Well, they must be. I mean, it does show that they work. Yeah. Right. Because you heated them and all your disks are fine. There was, I think, there was a video from the BBC. I think at some point it was like a news report or whatever. We linked to it at some point, and I don't remember now where it came from, but where they were talking about floppies, and they actually did some experiments with like what could damage the floppy. So somebody took a floppy and I think they had identical contents on like 10 different floppies, and then someone went and to put it on the floor of a subway, and someone went and ran it through an airport scanner, and somebody put it under a ringing phone, and someone poured beer on one, and the only one that actually failed after all of that was the one that was under a ringing phone, because the magnets that make the bell go were too strong. But anyway, actually, when I was looking at this too, I came across a Reddit thread, which now that's annoying. Where did it go? Here. So it was basically about the humorous warnings at the back of a Beagle Bros disk sleeve, and there's a little discussion here that says Penguin Software disk jackets had a similar but different warnings. Still, ours were better, and it turned out that the person who posted that actually was an employee of Beagle Brothers at the time. So there's a kind of an extended sort of discussion about like some stuff about working there, which I thought was kind of cool. In a modern context, reading back.
I wonder how many employees Beagle Brothers ever had. I would not have imagined it was a great number.
Yeah, but yeah, I think there were probably a number of people who weren't among the named ones we know, right? I mean, like, so we know the people who wrote the software, and we might. I guess we know the fictional names of some of the employees, but like
surely it's just the two gentlemen that are pictured
right, the
in the
cough
ads,
drops
right?
people.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I thought that was sort of interesting, and that is the various stories surrounding the gift idea.
Cool.
Right.
That's always been they've always been awesome. I've always loved those warnings from them and others. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This is a great company, but because they were very sort of technically focused in certain ways. They would they wanted to teach you programming and stuff like that, but they are also very funny a lot of the time too.
Yeah.
So
I love the little one-liners, little 1 or 2 liner, the code that they would have in their ads. They'd have like a little 1-line basic program that did something particularly clever, but in 1 line of basic code.
Yeah. I think this was their observation that if you, like normally on the Apple II, if you wanted to get into the system monitor so that you could like examine memory and stuff like that, you would type call -151. That's like the way that you would get, that's the entry point for that. But they observed somewhere that you can save a couple of keystrokes by just saying like call -1, and it will crash into the monitor. So yes. I thought that was pretty pleasing. Anyway, okay. So when you are done buying all of your various mugs and T-shirts and so forth, you can turn your attention to eBay, and Blake has the first thing to look at there.
Okay, so the first thing that I've got is I've got a couple of items. Sorry, I'm messing things up. But Chrome has lost permission to share your screen.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Let's try that again. Sorry,
Actually,
wanted to share the.
I'll take a moment to share my screen too while I am at it.
And since we're now talking off the side, I sent you a link indicating I shifted my auction link in case you pre-opened that.
I wish I did. So yeah, and hold on a second. Let me remove it anyway. Okay.
I found a better angle in on that. Yes, well, I guess that makes it a little difficult. I guess I can.
Where did this message go? Oh, private chat, I bet. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Since we're already in edit mode, it tells me I can go to system preferences. I don't know why in Mac OS system preferences all of a sudden it would have lost. You go to privacy, somehow it unchecked itself according to what it's telling me. So let me just take a quick look because I had many sub pages I was going to bring up. Hold on.
There is no step 2, I think, is the Apple motto, right?
Yes, indeed. Sorry.
Very interesting.
No, Google Chrome is not unchecked. I have to quit and reopen. All right. Here, I'm just going to talk, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do it this way. I'll show it.
If you want to share the one item, yeah, you can share the item, and I'll just talk. I don't need the sub pages. Yes. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. You got the updated item. Okay.
Yep.
Get back. Okay. Okay. So the item that I've got a couple of items, and basically they're both about systems that I just am not very familiar with, and I'm curious. I guess half of my point in bringing them up is to see if anyone else on the show is familiar with these items or not. So this is a Philips VideoPack G7400 game console with box, joystick, and 2 games tested. It's got a buy it now of $103, which it's in Hungary, so $55 shipping to me in the US. I'm guessing that I feel like that's probably a good price given what this is. And I guess this caught my attention because I know that, growing up, my neighbor, I was one of the few people that had a computer for a game machine, like the TI. And so, people would come, oh, this is different than the Atari, and play games on my TI. My neighbor had a different situation as well, and it was a Philips. It was a Magnavox Odyssey 2. Mm-hmm. Now, that's also known as the Philips Odyssey 2. So the Philips VideoPack 7000 that preceded the item I'm talking about here was also known as the Magnavox Odyssey 2. And it was a console, a second generation game console that had a little, flat panel keyboard, membrane keyboard. And it had some surprisingly enjoyable games. It was colorful. It had a weird 100 by 200 resolution. So boxy colors, but I remember it was interesting because no one else around had one. Everyone had an Atari 2600. So I have hours playing on Odyssey 2, and I really kind of liked it. Unique games. So this is an Odyssey 3, and it was actually a very limited. It effectively would have been known as the Odyssey 3 in the planned release in the United States, but that never happened in 1983. A number of factors, including the video game crash, caused it not to happen, but it saw some limited release as the Philips VideoPack G7400 in Europe, and I don't think I've ever seen it. I may have heard mention of it, but it has significantly improved graphics. I mean, 320 by 238. It's backward compatible with the other, with the previous Odyssey 2. It has interestingly, the CPU is the Intel 8048. I'm not aware of any other system that utilizes the 8048. At 5.91 megahertz. It's 16 color. It sounds like it is much more capable. It sounds sort of surprisingly capable looking at what else was around at the time. Of course, it didn't actually release in the US, and it has a very limited release in Europe. And another notable thing about this is number 3 in the line. There was the Odyssey 2, and then the first unit was the Magnavox Odyssey, which was designed, I think, as many of us know, by Ralph Baer while he was at Magnavox, and that was the first commercial home video game console. So the Odyssey 2 was a follow-up of that. It was much more limited. I think it was black and white. If I had the ability to share my screen with those that are there we go. Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
I saw having some technical difficulties on my end here, but Paul has saved the day for YouTube watchers. I was at there was an exhibit, Spirit of Innovation, I believe it was called, at the American History Museum in DC, and there's a reproduction of Ralph Baer's Places of Invention was the name of the exhibit. Reproduction of Ralph Baer's workshop, in which he created his home workshop, where he put together the I guess prototypes leading up to the Odyssey. So it caught my attention. There's some history here with the notable Odyssey 1. Baer. It's an interesting story. I've read it in a number of places. I think I have a book. I'm afraid I can't recall the name, but that goes into it, and it's an interesting story. But so yeah, this looks like, I assume there's some software for it. It would be interesting to play with. $100 or so doesn't seem crazy for what seems to be a pretty rare unit. I guess it's probably PAL if it's all European release. Wikipedia lists the successor to this, I guess simply successor meaning, well, this is the next thing that Philips came out with that one might call a console, as the interesting, sort of unusual Philips CDI, which is, I guess, the CD interactive device that was 68,000 based, I think. At any rate, has anyone here played around with any sort of Odyssey, or does the Odyssey 3 or this VideoPack G7400 ring a bell? Any familiarity?
Zero.
I don't know of this system at all. In terms of playing with an Odyssey,
Okay.
I was trying to show it here. I have an Odyssey 2.
You do? Okay.
Let me see if I can back this up a little bit and
Yeah,
get this in camera. It's tough to get it all in camera, but it's an interesting device, and I
Many
haven't
times larger
actually,
than your head.
Yeah.
I haven't actually powered it on to see if it works. So
Yeah,
I will.
I'd like to know what, if you could keep holding it up for a second, what Michael thinks about the reset button on that unit. After we've talked about, as you can see, it's a red reset button with target hairs aimed at the button.
Yep.
So is that a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Michael, for reset buttons?
Oh, well, for a reset button that works as intended, I think that's a winner.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, there's no mistaking.
No.
Yes, it's sort of main event on the device.
How touch is the touch keyboard.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
I don't feel any indentation at all. I'm wondering if it's like a pure capacitance.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you brushed over that, is it going to do the job as the designer intended?
Yeah, I guess you can't accidentally hit the reset key if you actually can't very well hit any key.
That's true.
Yeah. I recall from and again, it's just a weird random thing that I had this neighbor that somehow had this Odyssey 2. I have a lot of memories of it. I'm glad I had that little excursion. But yeah, I remember it basically, my microwave oven upstairs has the same basic keyboard as that thing. It's perfectly smooth. You can wipe it down. Not a good keyboard. But so, Earl, have you played around with it? Have you hooked that up, and have you done much with the Odyssey 2?
No, I just got it not long ago, gifted to me from another collector, and I haven't actually even plugged it in.
You mean someone else who was right sizing?
Yeah, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. Right size. I think.
Well, Blake, I'm going to give you some happy news. I went to have a look at this G7400, and it does not ship to Australia. So you've got a good head start over me, because I'd have to organize something.
No, I think I'll probably let this one go. It's just interesting. Took me back down memory lane, and I bet it would. I bet it had some. I bet it could have done some interesting. I bet it could have put on a good show, so to speak. And yeah, the Odyssey 2 games were unique. I mean, I remember they were. I think it was probably like TI, where they basically were. I could be wrong. I feel like the games were so unique and unusual that they were probably making their own in-house games that were not unlike other games out there. Yeah, it had a charm to it.
Yeah,
so,
I have no rational justification for buying this, but boy, it looks nice.
Yeah, it looks like it would be fun. It would be fun, but anyway, so yeah, that's there you go with that. And were you going to add something, Paul, to that? I thought.
No, I don't think so. I do not have any experience with these.
Okay. All right. Well, since I guess I have one more item, we can move on to this. And again, as I said, at the beginning here, these are just two machines I hadn't had any familiarity with. This one looks kind of the physical presence of it got my attention. And so what it is, it's a let's see, Matra Alice 8000 prototype. Number 24. Now, apparently, this is a very rare machine. I will say, Matra Alice. Alice made. I think we've talked about on the show before. Basically, a clone or Tandy had the MC10, which was sort of a scaled down physically and as far as capabilities color computer, and the Matra Alice is basically an identical form factor machine that's bright red. And we've talked about this before, and so they made that. It's a French computer company. They made a number of other systems. This one, I guess part of the intrigue for me on this is just how little I was able to find about it. I mean, there are a few pages, and Paul is actually showing a couple of them on the screen with specs for those watching through YouTube. But it has two cartridge ports, and this auction item comes with I believe a basic cartridge. Oh no, a basic manual and there's a programming language, an educational language called, I believe it was LSE, which is a French, it's an abbreviation for a French term. It's a learning language. The manual and the cartridge for that comes with as well. It appears. It's just interesting. It has the CPU is a 6803, which is in the same family as the CPUs used by Tandy, but it's not, as far as I can tell, it has nothing to do on an operating system level with Tandy or Radio Shack. It has an interesting physical form factor. I wish there are some side shots of it in one of the links. Yes, I think I see Paul has it on the screen. It has a monitor that looks kind of like a cross between the Apple IIc 9-inch monitor and a compact Mac, and it will sort of fit right up against a notch in the back of this keyboard form factor unit, and it's sort of an interesting looking device. And I can't tell you what operating system it runs. I was not able to to actually determine. And so this more than the other, the Magnavox. I'm wondering if anyone has ever seen this before, because I had never encountered this at all.
Nope.
And it's curious that despite having some specs out there and mention of the basic language and this other language, that there's no talk of that I can see of an operating system, or presumably there's something in ROM. I don't know, but it caught me caught my interest, and it's quite expensive. The unit here is $5,100 buy it now, shipping from Beirut, which is free shipping from outside.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're teasing me with free international shipping.
Yeah, you got the if you got $5,100 to figure out what operating system this runs,
Yeah.
let me
When
know.
when I saw your entry for this, and then I clicked on it earlier, I was actually shocked to find that it wasn't red, because now it's just so deeply ingrained that the Matra Alice is a red color computer. And I quite like it. Probably might be one of the reasons I bought one of the Chinese Keck I Apple II clones, because of its brilliant red plastic shell.
Nice. Yeah,
which hasn't faded over the years. But no, this is an interesting machine, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw in digging around, there's two other Matra. I guess Matra Alice is the company name. I thought that Alice was the name of the model of the red Tandy unit, but there were two other Matra Alice computers I could find with cryptic names like AP3X or something, and I didn't determine much about them, but they were not red. They looked like sort of generic business all-in-one computers from the 80s. But yeah, not a lot of, I don't know how large Matra Alice was, a presence in Europe or even in France. Maybe a listener will let us know. But yeah, it sounds like I know, aside from Michael's familiarity with the Cocoa type unit, we've discussed on the show before. Anybody else had any info on this, or guess maybe not?
No, not
so,
yeah. Not nothing other than the Cocoa clone.
Okay. Yeah, well, it caught my attention because of its. I'd never seen it before, and that is.
You had linked to the randoc.wordpress.com, rare and old computers.
Yes.
Tagline: how rare they are and how much they cost. But in this on the Alice 8000 site, it actually, or in this, the page devoted to the Alice 8000, there's actually a little list of known Alice 8000s, and it's 2 inches tall. I mean, that there are like a dozen known instances of this, and that's it. So
yeah, I see, I'm looking at it here. It looks like there's they have the serial, the model number. Looks like there were maybe not many more than 250 made, and here's the person's name, maybe a web page of them. It's interesting, like a rare book catalog or something.
Like a bit like the Apple One list.
Right, exactly.
But shorter.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be an interesting machine to learn more about. I don't think I'm going to be purchasing it, but with it interestingly, on that same page that you mentioned, I forgot I had noticed this before. The specs indicate the CPU as there's the 6803, as I mentioned, at 4.9 megahertz, but there's also an Intel 8088. So what does that mean? Or is that something that slotted in one of those two cartridge ports, as like that would happen sometimes, like on the Laser 3000s, like, oh, you can become a CPM computer or an Apple II with a cartridge. I don't know. It's strange. Matra Data System is the company. I guess Alice might have been a broader term for a certain division of their computer manufacturing. Maybe the home units. I don't know. It was made in 1985, apparently. So, yeah, interesting. If anybody knows anything more, please write in.
Very cool.
Or if someone wants to donate it to Earl to stop him from right sizing.
Left size Earl.
Right. All right. And speaking of Earl, you have the next eBay auctions.
Well, Blake had a theme. I do too. My theme is confusion and dismay. So I'll start with confusion.
Excellent.
This auction is extremely inexpensive, just $1. The auction is for basic coding forms. Now, we've talked before on the podcast about the Fortran coding forms that were columnar sheets of paper with green colored stripes along the rows, and were used for writing out by hand your Fortran program in anticipation of getting to a key punch machine, or maybe if you were super lucky, a terminal where you could type in your Fortran program. So it was just, getting ahead and writing it out, which for Fortran kind of made sense to me. And in fact, when I had to do Fortran on those cards that you bubbled in with a number 2 pencil, it actually was, in fact, kind of nice to use the coding forms. These are for BASIC. I don't understand this. This is the confusion part. Usually with BASIC, you're working interactively with the system in an interpreted environment. So you would be working on a home computer, or maybe if you were doing BASIC on a mini or a mainframe, still you'd be sitting there at a terminal. I don't know of anyone who ever turned in BASIC programs on punch cards or any other kind of medium other than sitting at a terminal and working interactively. So, I mean, I know computers in the past could have been rare to access, so maybe you wanted to write it out ahead of time, but so much of BASIC was coding on the fly, just kind of, shooting from the hip. Why
maybe these have been produced by the company that was doing the Fortran or COBOL coding sheets, and they saw the writing on the wall and thought they'd get in on this BASIC bandwagon.
Exactly. Did anyone ever use, any of you ever use a BASIC coding form?
No. I vaguely remember just using a Fortran one, but most of my Fortran started off as just writing it on paper with maybe any annotations on there. I don't remember actively using Fortran coding sheets to before I key punched, but no, never used anything other than chicken scratchings on paper for BASIC, or most of the time it was brain to keyboard was most of my BASIC programming. Even my assembler programming was mostly brain to keyboard, which is probably why I don't remember much of it anymore. But
well, this just seems so counter to the whole concept of using BASIC in an interactive fashion to accomplish your task. So I don't get it. But
I definitely have.
cheap.
That's true. I definitely have old notebooks from when I was a kid where I, in my young person handwriting was writing out BASIC programs. I would write all the REM statements, and then I would lose the will to keep going. And so actually these programs tended to be pretty non-functional, but
yeah, it was a fully functional programs apart from anything other than REM.
Right. But well, it didn't crash, but
no.
I don't know. I like that. If I had to use BASIC coding forms, I think I would have lost my will to live. Actually. So that's it. But you can have them for $1 a piece plus shipping. So at least they're inexpensive.
Yeah.
So with that, unless there's other comments, I'd move on to my next item here.
Yeah, just a quick, by the way, on that one, I would only get them to put them in with my other coding helpers or aids. I've got things like the mobile phone and tablet mock-ups for designing things, for storyboarding and things like that. But yeah, I can't see. I don't think I need 6 40-page pads of them.
Might be nice sitting next to like your IBM flowcharting template.
Checks, scans across desk. No, I don't have room.
Yep.
Let it go. Oh, that looks pretty.
So next, I'm moving from confusion to dismay, which I didn't even know about this particular line of computers. It turns out that there's several models, apparently. It's from DEC, from Digital Equipment Corp. It is a line of computers called Starion, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They appear to be PC clones. And some of the screenshots down below on the auction show that you're booting into the Phoenix BIOS. The machine is a beige tower with a 3.5-inch floppy drive and a CD. And aside from the DEC logo in the upper left corner, it would be really difficult to tell the difference between this machine and just a bog standard clone machine. I know that DEC had some issues with, the whole PC world coming into play, and perhaps some business anxiety in that regard. That's what I heard and read. When you look at the history of DEC, the PC market apparently kind of took them off guard. This looks like an attempt to participate in the PC market, but it just kind of makes me sad. It's like DEC, with all of their uniqueness, all of their awesome engineering, just trying to be like everybody else. Phoenix BIOS, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just like, this is cookie cutter. So that's why this is dismay. Now, in terms of this individual auction, the computer itself looks like it's in reasonably good shape, with just the normal scuffs and that kind of thing that you would anticipate for a computer of this era. It's a Pentium 1, I think 166 megahertz, and it's got your standard ports and VGA output, PS2 style keyboard and mouse. Very, very straightforward clone, like you might see from a dozen other manufacturers or more. And if you're a completionist kind of DEC collector, this might be a good item for your collection. Was made by DEC, does have the DEC logo, but aside from that, I just don't feel any Digital Equipment Corp about this at all. And maybe folks that have had experience with these PCs might write in and say, oh no, these were great, these were different. If that's your experience, I'd love to hear it. I didn't even know these existed until I saw this eBay auction.
I do like the short tower format that they've used for this. That was my preferred way of doing it, because if you have a look at the back view, you've got your main board and slots basically oriented to how you would use them, rather than 90 degrees rotated that some towers were. But I saw that as when it first came up as that's a nice DOS Windows machine. It's digital. So maybe I'll just go 3D print my own digital badge and stick it on something here.
Yeah, I still somehow have this, like, I have a warm, fuzzy feeling seeing the little digital logo on it.
Yeah.
But, so there's still a little bit left.
Yeah. Reaches for the white paint pen to just fix it up.
It's a little worn on this particular badge. Cool.
What was the price on that? Was it $200?
Yes.
Yep. Starting bid at $200, which, isn't terribly ridiculous for a functional machine, and especially one that's DEC and one in this kind of condition.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with this auction.
No, I'd happily pay $200, maybe a bit more for that, purely because it's a nice looking machine and it's got a digital badge on it. And it kills two birds with one stone if you needed a low end Pentium machine. Apart from that, still a nice form factor and sweet memories of the Digital Corp.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder if this was a sort of like a low effort entry. Like they didn't have to do very much to just, like they had the stuff that they needed to produce computer parts.
They didn't even get the BIOS customized.
Yeah.
I remember I was at a PC Expo in New York City in 1999, and SGI was there with they had that iconic display that was very similar to the first LCD studio display that Apple ever released, that widescreen with the height adjustment. I can't recall exactly the model, but anyway, they were selling that screen paired with these towers that looked like older SGI machines. But what they were basically just Pentium 3. Pentium 3 Windows NT machines, so it had the whole SGI, mystique about it. Yeah, but it's like, I think the case might have been used as one of their personal workstations. that ran IRIX, but it was just just an NT machine, and there was the area, they had maybe 50 or 30 machines on display, and they were running Photoshop, so they were showing like how fast this thing could do Photoshop. It just was kind of similar feel, I think. It's like it's an SGI, but not exactly. Yeah.
Sort of missing some of the magic.
Yeah.
All right. So now I guess, Michael, you have the next.
Just a small entry. So if anyone is again a completionist and you're after a black Mac TV mouse, this one, this really, I'm not interested in it as an auction item, but more interested in sort of like how much is it going to go for after it's currently next to nothing, 2 bids. So
Yeah, this was a pretty brave move to start it at nothing, but they're hard to find.
they are.
They're also a little bit hard to search for, but
Yes.
yeah, I have one. It took a long time.
So this is
You
not PS2. This is ADB.
ADB. Yeah. So it's supposedly the real McCoy. It's not one that's been spray painted. It looks real. You've got the photos underneath, and it didn't look like to be any painting or retro darking, retro blacking.
Could even use it on your black 2GS, I guess.
Yeah.
Or your next.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would work. I guess. Well, it would work on the next as long as you only need one button.
One button, right, instead of 2.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is the mouse that goes with the Macintosh TV, which is black. I forget what is it. Do you know what the model is? That it's basically like it's something else, but just black.
Like a Quadra inside. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that really pine for the Mac TV. It's a nice looking machine. Doesn't do anything for me, but
yeah. I guess it's basically whatever that beige machine that Paul was talking about with a TV, a cable receiver card in it, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. And it has a couple of sort of weird properties. Let's see. It shares the external appearance of the
LC.
LC 500. But so it's an all-in-one unit, so it's heavy. But so it's one of the few black Macs. So it's that's what makes this mouse hard to find, is that there aren't a lot of models that it could be shared among. It's just this. There's also a black Mac keyboard that came with this. It has a tray loading CD, and just irritatingly, the tray is still
black.
It's still beige. So
really,
Yeah.
That beige. I was assuming that was a reflection of a shiny black.
No.
cover.
New out of the box, not black.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really just stands out visually in a crazy way.
In a very non-Apple way.
Yeah.
You have to paint it, obviously.
Yeah.
If I had bought this machine and saw that, I'd go down the back to my model paints, and I would find whether a gloss, a flat, or a satin finish was required, and I would get in there and paint it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That blows my mind. That actually, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have one of these Apple TVs, and I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to keep it, but it is very tempting to paint that. Yeah.
There was no other black Apple computer until the black MacBook, was there? The plastic MacBooks, as opposed to the aluminium ones.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, was there
There was
another? You
that.
mentioned, Paul, that there weren't many others, but I was trying to think what other one is black that's not a laptop.
There is one. Let's see. Let me look at my eBay search terms.
I mean,
Because
is it the 25th anniversary? I guess is what it's not.
Dark gray.
that's still gray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac. Let's see. Because there is one that the Power Macintosh 5500, I think came in a black version in like Japan or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
there we
we're
go.
talking about something fairly niche.
The Power Macintosh 5500 is also black.
Okay.
But I think I've seen like exactly one in a decade on eBay. So,
Yeah.
also the Apple set top, the Apple Interactive Television box is also black. Apple Interactive TV box, which is it's kind of a nothing, but
Yeah. Interesting.
all right.
So if anyone wants to hazard or attempt to get a cheap black Macintosh TV mouse, maybe this is your chance.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. So
That's provided they ship to you foreign parts.
right. So I have a couple of things. The first thing is a Prime Computer ashtray.
The good old days where the person sitting beside you in the office actually smoked.
Yeah.
While you're in the office.
So anyway, because Prime Computer came up, this is why I thought that there would be a one of the Prime Computer ads as well. But it also came up earlier. Who was talking about this earlier?
I had the Prime floppy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Prime floppy. Oddly.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, so it is it is $130 buy it now, basically, and I think this.
Yeah, please tell me that in the text in there says comes from a non-smoking household.
Right. Yeah, it said I bought this from an ex-employee's estate sale. So
I wonder what they were ex from.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an estate sale, so pretty much everything, I think.
No, I meant lung cancer.
Oh yeah. Anyway, okay, so I thought that was cool. Next thing I have is I don't know very much about these. This is a Texas Instruments Silent 700 data terminal. So I think it has thermal paper, and it's basically, I don't think it has much brain to it. I think it is really just a terminal.
Yeah.
Model 703 is this one.
I feel like we might have talked about this like a year ago, maybe, or something.
This particular one, or just this?
No. Just or maybe the existence of a TI's portable quiet terminal that has no screen. It's basically. I have some weird memory. I don't know.
Yeah.
The keys aren't standard color, though, are they? I feel like that's different. Or are they just way yellowed?
Well, yeah, that was the thing. So what really jumped out at me about this one is the the sort of autumnal color scheme.
The autumnal tones.
It's kind of 2001, a little bit.
Yeah, because the keys are all orange, basically. And the escape key is actually quite nice because it's orange. It's red on orange. I don't know if I've got a zoomed in one here, but yeah. So I like it. As far as I can tell, these normally look like this. Where I have a photo of a non-oranged one, which is really actually just really quite straightforward, all gray keys. So.
With a couple of colored keycap texts.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. And actually, the one that had the orange keys does come with a little manual that has a picture of it on the front without the orange keys. So I think they really are just dramatically yellowed, which I think is also interesting about this.
Really?
I'd
mean,
so much want to. I so much want to take that apart so I can actually look. Well, I suppose I don't need to take it apart. I'd love to pop off those keys to have a look underneath.
Yeah. It does. They're very uniform. I mean, like it's hard to believe that they weren't originally orange, but yet all evidence seems to suggest that they were originally orange. Or, sorry, not originally orange.
Or if they weren't,
cases of plastic discoloration I've ever seen.
Or if they weren't, it's one hell of a paint job. It's great.
Yeah, I do like it.
Then I've never seen yellowing like that. I mean, that's the most intense yellowing I've ever seen. If that's yellowing.
Yeah, that's gone several pages in the Pantone book past my Apple IIc.
Yeah.
I mean, but the rest of the unit isn't particularly yellowed, as far as I can tell.
Although the Texas Instruments logo itself does seem to be yellower than you'd expect. So, and it is pretty interesting to compare it to the other auction, where it is just like totally clean. All, yeah. So, anyway, mostly I was just sort of pointing out how yellow those keys were. I'm not sure that the Silent 700 is desirable, but it's kind of interesting. So.
Well, I would like at some point, in terms of, the right sizing I was talking about before, as I divest other things, one of the things I would like to get is a printing terminal of some sort. I mean, the ultimate would be one of those standing deck writer terminals. Those are just beautiful, but they're very difficult to come by. A Silent 700 would meet the need. And I think this product line actually carried on for a good number of years and had several different iterations of it. I was looking at Wikipedia. It looks like it started in the early 70s. And I have seen Silent 700s, if I recall correctly, that have an acoustic modem attached to them.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm also looking at the Wikipedia page now, and that does use. Well, okay. I guess I'll copy the Google search instead. But this Silent 700 with the acoustic coupler on the back is one that I feel like I have seen that, in eBay auctions going by. Very interesting.
I sent you a link, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you a link that has a similar, a unit that is similarly afflicted.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but I agree with Earl. It'd be nice to have a printer terminal because apart from doing Fortran on the Punch or Mark Sense cards, we used the teletype terminals for accessing the stats packages for part of the uni course. And, kind of miss that field. Mind you, it got noisy once everyone started getting their data sets entered and being processed.
Yeah, Paul was showing for the YouTube folks. There's another unit that has not nearly as orangey keys, but you wouldn't really call them yellow. And apparently, this looks like it's from a Reddit thread where in the end this guy got it cleaned up, so it's basically like a clean unit, gray keys. So I guess that is really, really, really deep yellowing.
Yeah. So like something special about that particular plastic they used in the keys or something.
I guess.
Yes. Interesting use of the word special, but yes. Yeah. Special pumpkin spice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Now. This next one I have, I'm not necessarily recommending the buy it now price of $987. It is an ImageWriter 2. The ImageWriter 2 comes up fairly frequently as the kind of thing that like multiplies on your shelves and you want to get rid of. But one thing that is interesting about this is that this particular one, this is shipping I think from Japan, but it has the sheet feeder, and for some reason I can't zoom in on the photos here, but
the cut sheet feeder.
Yeah, that is a pretty rare accessory. The ImageWriter 2 is not a rare object, but the sheet feeder actually it is. So it's kind of interesting if you didn't know it existed. see it. That was the thing I wanted to bring up. Basically, is that it exists.
Yeah. It would have felt so strange, once we got. I guess I obviously, no one could afford a laser printer for some time, but then we started getting these like the StyleWriter and the HP inkjet printers, and so they would handle, after years of using tractor feed paper, or if you had fancy paper to do, you'd feed it, you'd manually do it one at a time. When I got my first StyleWriter, which was on Mac LC, which was the first type of it by default had a sheet feeder, and then moving forward, everything else did, and so it felt so amazing to not have to gauge how high up, where to put the perforations of your, so the thought of being in that mode on a ImageWriter 2 is sort of mind blowing, to think about like, transforming the ImageWriter 2, which I probably did more tractor feed finagling than on any other printer. Seeing it operate like that would have felt like some kind of magic, I think. And of course you would have paid for it, because what is that thing back then? That sheet feeder must have cost $1,000 or something, right?
Yeah, well, probably cost more than the printer, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had a ImageWriter. Well, I still have the ImageWriter 1, but I'd put electrical tape, red electrical tape on where to move the paper and the platen up to the same point, so that the same XY sort of like position, and do it that way. Or if I was printing off at uni, you'd print on the fanfold paper, and I had access to some of the areas of the uni that other students didn't. I would basically I'd split the fanfold print, and I'd take it to a large electric guillotine and just smooth off the edges so that it didn't have the perforated fluffy edge that other students. So it made the HLQ printout look that little bit better, that there was no little shaggies on the edge of the paper.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's. I would be curious what this costs, because I bet it was like $1,200 or something for that sheet feeder. That's crazy.
I have no idea.
And the ImageWriter 2 obviously had in its ROM, the ability to handle, it's sort of controlling another peripheral. Like it wasn't just, it wasn't another computer, but it wasn't a simple dumb, I think it had some complexity to the mechanism. I would think. I don't know. I might be wrong.
I don't know. So one thing about these is that there are some fragile plastic bits near the bottom, and so I have one, but it has a broken fragile plastic bit that I might try to repair, so I can try to make it work. It doesn't actually look like it has electronics in it. But,
okay.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can find a photo of it here at some point, but because it's not physically next to me, but I was sort of pleased to get it and sad to see that the piece was broken. So that's sort of where I am with that one at the moment. But nevertheless, I know that it is. I was surprised to learn that it existed in the first place.
Yeah.
All right, I think I will leave it with that. And so I guess we made it then to the point where we can talk about closing discussions. So let's see. I guess Blake, do you have any sort of closing notes, parting shots?
Nothing really worth noting in particular. I guess we'll get started on the archiving kick. A little more contribution from me, hopefully this year. And actually, I guess interesting. Just since this happened today, I'll closing mention. I was at CVS, and I saw this on the shelf next to beard products, like beard trimming products, and it's a little arcade machine. And I thought, okay, it's Galaga. They had Pac-Man, and I thought, well, this is probably like some simplified little, like 1980s watch sort of thing, where it's got like a couple of lights that blink, and it's not really Galaga. But of course, no. It's basically an embedded MAME system with running the arcade version. I mean, that's that's definitely Galaga, and so it's running on like a Raspberry Pi type or Propeller or something. I don't know, some kind of embedded machine.
So
And
where do you put your chin to trim the beard?
that's right. I haven't figured that out yet. Yeah, it's got four double A's, but the thing was, I saw it $30, next to the just random, like a couple. It's not like it was a computer or game section of CVS, the drugstore, and so and then as I was looking at it, I noticed, well, okay, so it's got like clearly it's running MAME and it's running ROM and it's labeled Bandai Namco, so it's official. It would have been much more difficult and expensive probably to create something that's similar to like the 80s watches, which had like predefined lights, that showed. Somehow I pictured like it's not animated, it's the lights change and light up like little Game and Watch things. And it occurred to me that would be harder and more expensive than just grabbing a 85-cent embedded processor, and then putting it in here with a $5 color LCD. And it's just funny to think, if someone like, I don't know, my dad or something came from the drugstore in 1984 when I had my 2C and said, "Oh yeah, I bought this for $30. I found it, next to the beard trimming stuff. So you want this?" It would have been like this crazy magic piece of technology that fell from the sky or something. Somehow it just struck me how that would be. Weird. Times are strange. But anyway, I had to buy it, and I wish it wasn't quite so loud. I don't think I can play it with anyone around. It's hard to describe how loud this is. But anyway, so that's a little weird find.
Doesn't help that it has those penetrating tunes as well.
Yes, indeed. Hell, earbug. But yep. So I thought I'd tack that onto my parting thoughts. So there you go.
Actually, since you mentioned the those old watches and stuff, it reminded me that Jack actually, Jack of our podcast, wrote a iOS game called, what is it called? Pits of Death, which is basically that model of a game. It has little predefined little lit up things, and you kind of drive it around.
Interesting.
So.
I didn't realize that. Did he put that in the App Store, or is it around, or is that just for him, or?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay. I did not know.
You can watch the little trailer.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna have to. You'll have to put the trailer in the show notes. I'm going to. I'm going to go download that now.
Yeah. Anyway, so a little sponsor spot, I suppose. But
nice.
Anyway. Earl, any closing thoughts?
Just two. One is that I was going to pick up one of the Altairs I was working on the other day, and I dropped it on my toe from only a distance of about an inch or two. Just in the process of picking it up, like kind of tipping it, and got away from me. My professional advice is don't do that. That was extremely painful.
How much do they weigh? How much is it? It's got to be very heavy, right?
Yeah. Is it okay? And I'm not referring to the toe.
Well, the toe is okay, although for a day it really hurt. Yeah. Like I couldn't sleep well that night. Actually, the Altair is fine. Those things are beast. They're just built like a rock. And it turned out this one didn't have any cards in it. It was just the bare chassis. And
it was light then.
I don't even think. No. The main weight, the mass of those things is in the power supply. I mean, the metal cabinet, the sheet metal has a little bit of heft to it, but power supply is really the thing in there in terms of the heft. So, yeah, don't do that.
If it had been an edge impact first, that would have hurt even more. But sounds like you says that was like a flat drop onto your foot.
Right. Yeah. No, it was okay. It was okay. Yeah. It didn't feel good. So don't do that. That's
no.
The moral of the story is.
Conclusion is do not do this.
Exactly. Now that's in the category of what not to do. In the category of what to do, this is on our gift guide. So I think I can say you should do this. this is one of those cheap USB microscopes, and I got this for Christmas, and I've used it a couple times, and it is so much fun. Now, you're not going to get a professional quality microscope for the $10 to $15 range like this costs on eBay, but what you will get is some really interesting views of things that, I mean, it works pretty well for the amount that you spend. So I looked at a coin, I looked at some paper, I actually looked at the screen on my Samsung smartphone because my son suggested that. He's like, hey, I wonder what the screen on your S9 Plus looks like if it's under the microscope. And it actually looked really interesting, seeing the individual pixels and the RGB elements that are on there. And the next thing I'm going to look at is a piece of core memory that I have, which I think would be fascinating to check out at high magnification. So anyway, fun little toy. I also looked at some solder joints on a circuit card that I was looking at, and I was able to get good enough.
I got this one for Christmas. So it's basically the next version up from what you've got, but it includes a 7-inch LCD screen.
Has the screen.
Interesting.
Yeah. So So some of the electronics YouTube channels, they've got obviously much more powerful, better ones, but that's very handy. Also, doesn't necessarily need to be hooked into a computer. Has a SD card in there as well.
Oh, very nice. Have
you
played
it's pretty
with it?
good. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, being able to being a heavy base. So I'll try not to drop it on my foot, but moving the focus wheel and the camera up and down to sort of really move in. It allows you to hold it at a steady position. Because I had one of those ones just like what you've got there, and yes, they're good, but I found that they were very subject to vibration and whatnot. But this one, that was about just over $50 delivered from can't remember if it was from Banggood or from AliExpress. So
you're right that this model is very fidgety in terms of keeping focus. So, but for what it is, it's just a lot of
great.
fun.
Yeah. Take it off the stand and you can just use it to move around and look inside boxes, computers and bits like that. I've used that before. That's something you can't do with the benchtop one that I've got, but different uses, different things. But they're great. Even with digital magnification as opposed to the optical, they're very handy for zooming in on things that a person with my bad eyesight needs to look up close.
And that's all I got.
All right. I guess, Michael, actually, you are next. Do you have other closing thoughts?
Yes, well, mine is just doing more scanning, just things as they come in. Even the camera here that I got, so I even dropped its instruction leaflet onto my scanner and put that up in the Internet Archive. I'm just trying to get into the habit of having there, because I had been wanting to scan stuff and have it electronically, say as a PDF on a tablet or something like that. And I thought, well, if I'm going to all that trouble, I might as well just go and shove it up on the Internet Archive. It's available if I need, and then if I need to use it, and I'm not at my scan station, I can just download it to files on my tablets or phone.
Right. I was thinking it's like now you know where to find it. Too.
That's right. But in the meta code for it there. So if anyone was particularly wanting to go for that model there, they could just search for it at the Internet Archive. And I don't know how far out that meta code information goes if you were just going to do a internet search. But I'm just trying to get in the habit of pushing as many of my scans, not just the retrocomputing ones, even old documents for the land care group that I'm in, when we encounter environment documents and things written back in the 80s and whatnot. They're not available online anywhere, and even the first stage of using them, we need to scan and OCR them. So I just figured that I just up the resolution of those to 600 dpi and then just push them up to the Internet Archive so that other people can make use of them. So yeah. Internet Archive, my version of cloud storage.
Right. Yeah. All right. And I guess, yeah, I don't really have very much to add either for mine. Just, I too am going to continue to scan. And it is really interesting to read the things as they go by. And, I'm appreciating the things that I have, even as I plan not to have them. I mean, like, I sort of feel like I'm doing the thing that I had them for. So, but I am kind of looking forward to the time when there's not a bunch of stuff to process and I can just sit down and like actually play these games. Like, so some of these things are adventure games and stuff, which I don't really know very much about, but they look pretty interesting actually. So
yeah, it's one of the reasons that I do the scanning is that a lot of the computer games, the discs have been cracked or the ROMs have been cracked. Not just mine are predominantly Apple, but I've been doing it for other species of retro computer as well. But a lot of the manuals that are out there are very low quality scans from back in the day. They make well, I suppose some of them are no better than a fax.
Right.
So I'm taking the time to not only do the manuals, but also the player sheets, the info cards, and all of the other things. Like I've come across all of these product catalogs and offerings and things. I scan those, get them up there as well. So
pretty soon they could be textures in a like Unreal Engine thing, and so if you get all the sides, I guess you could, right? So yeah,
scan all the reader service cards.
That would be great. That would be really pretty cool.
I literally, I do. Anything that's in the box, and as well as the box, I scan it, including the floppy disk. So I'll just like push the floppy disk up so that the label is not obscured, and if there's anything interesting on the back of the floppy jacket, I'll scan the back as well. So
yeah, I have been trying to be systematic with this idea that maybe there will be a way to kind of like automatically grab all this and put it into a thing that you could flip with your VR glove or whatever. So
yeah, that'd be cute, that'd be fun. But the main reason I'm doing it is that I in the past have been frustrated by the lack of availability of documentation, business products, accounting products, games, everything that are out there. And a lot of the time you can get a copy of the game on whatever the flavor of disk format that your machine uses, but there's not there. So like you spend so much time trying to find out what all the commands are, what are the
right.
what are the menu options, and all for the want of an A5 card that gives you these things. Or some games they have very obscure abbreviations for the command that you're putting in.
Yeah, and to try to just guess it by hitting all the possible keys, it's very slow.
One game I had, if you wanted to control a tank, you typed TAK. It's like, I might have got that eventually, but it's not exactly the abbreviation I would have used for tank.
Right. Weird. Yeah. No, I think, and also, some of the higher demand things, were things that people, were eager to scan and so early scanned. And so they're all 150, DPI black and white, at weird angles. And so it is kind of worth it to do those again.
And there have been, I've come across scans that have been, say, 300 DPI. So quality wise, they've been okay, but they've been grayscale. And I've downloaded those, even if they're PDFs. I've then just on the command line, just spat the PDF out into TIFF pages and then imported it through Scan Tailor and said this is a black and white document, de-skew it, and then just push it up to the Internet Archive, just to sort of put a better quality on there. Because if it's just a manual, you don't need to present it as a grayscale document. You can present it as a black and white as it was. But on my server and my backup here, I've got all my 400 and 600 DPI original scans. So one day, I'll push those up, and as I tell people, if you see anything that I've scanned and you want a particular page or pages, I can send you the raw and the processed 600 DPI scans.
Yeah. It's pretty similar to what I've been doing. My actual scanner is scanning at 1200, but I don't post them at that, but I do have a RAID array that is filling up with a lot of image data.
Yes, Once upon a time, my 16 terabyte RAID 5 array had. I've just hit. I've still got half of it available, but right. you go. Yeah. Oh, golly gosh! Why have I got 4 terabytes of these and a couple of terabytes of those things there? So like a disk image is only 100K, 200K. Yet now I've got
but an image
scans
of the disk.
I've got an image of the disk, which is like 50 megabytes, and the image and the manuals and everything. So like
Anyway,
and that's one of the reasons why I'm scanning at 600 DPI rather than 1200. It's purely for disk space.
Yeah. Well, let me ask quickly, not to go deep into it. I probably will offline ask some advice, Michael and Paul, about scanning. But we keep talking about the DPI. So in my mind, 300 DPI is still high. So is 600 DPI basically the target for uploading things, or
depending on who you talk?
Low?
Yeah. 300 is acceptable. If you're going to scan it at 300, I'm happy. Because A, you're scanning it, and B, it's a workable resolution. I normally
is good.
Yeah, I find the sweet spot for OCRing a good quality source document is about 400 DPI. You get up into the high 90s of the OCR. But most of the time I'm scanning at 600 DPI, either 8-bit, 16-bit grayscale, just to archive anything that's on the page. So if someone comes back and says, I want to have a look at page 79, something looks strange there, because it's, you can't really go and eyeball every single page that you process. But if you keep as higher quality original source scan, someone else can do better. Or even they just point it out, I'll go back and I'll tweak that page and re-upload the result. But if someone says I've scanned this at 300 DPI, is that good enough? My answer off the cuff straight away is yes. It's good. Is it good enough? Could you do better? Have you done it? Yeah, it's great. The important thing is it's there.
You did it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I've usually found that 600, for the most part, 600 is fine enough that you can see the printer's dots or whatever, and so it doesn't. You can't really do all that much better than that.
Yeah, my printer will do. Theoretically, I think it says it does 12, but I can see the dots at 6, and it's a pretty cheap HP all in one. So it's no fancy thing. So I'll aim at 600.
Yeah, and as long as that's the optical resolution of your scanner, that's the other thing. I've got people who say, "Oh, I've scanned this for you at 800 DPI." And, it's like, oh yeah, so you interpolated. Excellent.
Right. That's
which is less of a problem these days, because even the scanners on the multifunction devices are, they may not be fast mechanisms and whatnot, but they will do a true 400 or 600 DPI if they say that is their optical resolution. They do a decent enough job. And while I didn't have a A3 flatbed scanner for a while there, I was like eBay searching for multifunction devices with A3 flat scan, but never found any that were not attached to a massively big device, pick up only hundreds of kilometers away. So I ended up finally getting hold of a A3 desktop scanner, because I think you might be able to sort of see over here. I've got one of these overhead camera things, and the most complimentary thing I can say to this one, which is a Cano scan, good quality thing. As far as a scanner goes, it's a piece of shit.
Excellent.
The software just can't handle it. They say put a book under it and take the picture of it. Yes, that works, but it just does not do the job of either a book that will allow you to put it face down on a flat scanner, or a proper book scanner where it will actually hold the book at 45 or 60 degrees, depending on what is the take for that scanner, with dual cameras taking left and right. So I've gone through a few of them. I've bought the cheap knockoff ones. I've gone and bought a Cano scan that's there, and I can't recommend them. They're just not up to it. I'm not even going to try the Cruiser or whatever, that fancy one that was out on Kickstarter. I don't think it's going to be what I need it to be.
Interesting. Yeah. I've been wondering about. The scanner I have is not much bigger than letter size. It can do legal, I guess, but so I have had to stitch together stuff, and Photoshop actually does a pretty decent job of stitching. So, but
that's the reason I wanted to go for an A3 scanner, because I've got stuff that I still have to stitch together when I scan it as A3.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have less segments.
Yeah, because it's not perfect, and that's irritating when it's not perfect.
And most of the stitching software that is out there is photo stitching, so it's just not got the AI to handle a flat edge. All I want is an edge-to-edge scan with half an inch overlap, if that, and that's difficult to do. So it's a Photoshop job. It does a reasonable job of it, but still, if I can cut down halve the number of segments I've got to stitch together by going to a larger scan size, that's better for the workflow.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been Scan Talk.
Yep.
But anyway,
the retro scan table.
Yeah. Whatever that was, 30 minutes of my of my closing notes. But okay. Anyway, let's wrap it up, since it is ticked past 2.5 hours. I think even edited it down.
Yeah. Time for second breakfast.
Yeah. Right. So I think that is it for this show. We will find Carrington sometime next time, I guess. You can find the show notes for this and all the RCR shows at rcrpodcast.com. You can discuss the show in the forums at bcfed.org/forum/forum.php. You can follow RCR on Twitter at RCRpodcast. You can join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/RCRpodcast. You can send feedback to feedback@rcrpodcast.com. We are a member of the Throwback Network at throwbackreviews.com. And if you wish, you may leave a review on iTunes. And until next time,
Retrocompute.
Does anyone have the Twitter address for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police?
To check, to do a wellness check?
A wellness check on Carrington.
Yeah. I hope he's fine. But he was at least able to type earlier that he couldn't get his new microphone to talk to his new computer. So I think that is the
It's
issue.
not like he dropped something on his toe. I think he's okay.
Unless in the process of trying to work with his microphone, he dropped an Altair or something, his couch. But he knew it was a bad idea to have a couch.
Yeah.
All right.
It's turning into a hoarder.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
See
thank
you later,
you.
YouTube.
Yeah, thank you, YouTube, for joining
Bye-bye,
us and
YouTube.
sticking around.